So here's a viewer subscriber request. I'm going to show some slow speed practice with the AK550 Kimco, and it's kind of a longer video. It's in 6 parts, starting as you'll see in the left corner with day 1. So here we go. And the good thing is I haven't had any real practice with this scooter yet. I've had it for a couple months. I just did an emergency brake right there. This is kind of my routine. Every time I ride, I do an emergency brake up the hill there from 40 miles an hour. And then I do a left U-turn out of this side street. That's kind of been my only slow speed practice with this scooter until now. And I've had the scooter for a couple months, and the reason for that is this is my favorite parking lot for practice. I'm doing slow speed stop and goes without putting my foot down here. I don't really recommend this if you're going to be doing turns as a warm-up, because you're going too slow here. Anyway, I did this. I tried to come in here and practice a couple months ago, and I realized this scooter is pretty heavy. The throttle's very abrupt, and, at the cutoff when you chop the throttle, and the brakes are very strong. So that was a couple months ago, and I said to myself, I don't want to drop this thing. I really need to get used to the throttle and the brakes and the weight. So I decided to just go out on the street. I would just do that emergency brake, that one left U-turn. I'm in the US, so left U-turns are going to be the most common. And the rest of it was I was going to learn on the street how to do all the slow speed straight stuff. And here you can see I almost fell. So this was day 1. I had to put my foot down and my other foot down. Right there, so that's not a good sign. So I've been riding for a little over a year now. I've had a Honda PCX, went through all the slow speed stuff with that. I have a KTM 390 Adventure, went through all the same parking lot, same slow speed stuff. And like I said, this is kind of the first time or the second time I guess, if technically, that I've tried this. And the reason I fell back there is this motorcycle, when you chop the throttle, if you do, like I said, it's like a cliff. It's, my recommendation is do not go below a certain speed. So that's hard to recover from. This motorcycle does not have a clutch, so it's very hard to make finesse movements with that throttle. So it's all rear brake. So because this motor is really strong compared to the other 2 motorcycles I had, I've got to put a lot of rear brake to compensate for that throttle. And so now that I've had it for a few months, 2 to 3 months, I've got a little over 600 miles now on it after this practice. So I'm back in this parking lot, and they were repaving the parking lot as well, so they finally got that finished. So now I'm back in here. Like I said, a subscriber wanted to see this, and I was planning on doing it anyway, but it is longer than usual because I wanted to spend more time on this particular subject. So my warm-ups are, I find a manhole cover, and I do left turns and right turns around this manhole cover. And you see my speedometer speed there. That's kind of where you need to be when you're making these slow speed turns. I'm not looking at that speedometer. I'm only paying attention to the sound of the motor. I don't want that motor engine sound to drop off. That's the warning sign right there. So I'm, squeezing that brake and keeping that throttle open just enough to keep that engine from dropping off. That's the biggest takeaway from this scooter is that throttle. You've really got to squeeze that brake, and I don't think you damage the brake. I don't think it overheats. I'm going real slow. The front brake gets the most wear and tear anyway. I suppose if you did this for maybe a half hour or longer at a time, it might be an issue. But obviously you don't want to do too much brake, otherwise you're constantly fighting your engine. Either you can cause some issues that way, like a get out of balance type of thing if you release the brake too fast. So if you've never ridden before, I would say do the slow speed stuff, the straight stuff in a parking lot for sure. The stop and go and complete stops with your feet down and stuff like that. Go as slow as possible and stuff like that. But I would avoid the U-turn and the figure eights without, I don't know, a week, maybe 20 minutes a day of the straight stuff. You got to get used to that throttle. The scooter is also longer than the other two motorcycles I've had. I'm calling the PCX a motorcycle too. And if you notice, I'm doing these figure eights and a lot of these moves here, and I'm going, longer. I'm not doing super, between the two different parking spaces on this motorcycle because it is harder to get in, do a smaller, and later I'll be doing that. But, so you're getting the kind of the raw footage here. I'm not trying to impress you guys. This is effectively day 4 if you look in the bottom corner of me practicing low speed maneuvers on this thing. I found I didn't really need a lot of expertise in that. I use the scooter for fun, and I don't do a lot of parking lot stuff in real life, shopping and stuff like that. But even if I did, as long as I've got my left U-turn down enough, left U-turn at a light. Again, I'm in the US, so a left U-turn would be the more common. And then if I had to do some other things, I could always circle back instead of just trying to force it, So I'm not so sure how critical this low speed stuff is. I will tell you, you can fall if you start practicing this without really getting warmed up and paying attention. So I've come closer to falling doing the practice as opposed to, riding around without having that practice under my belt. So maybe practicing too much is too much of a good thing. So again, I'm warming up. These are nice warm-ups on each day. I come in this parking lot, do some 360s around some manhole covers. My goal is 2 parking spots. I got 2 parking spots on my other 2 motorcycles, but this one is pretty much 2 1/4. It's about the best I can do. Right there, I'd say that was 2 1/4. Left turns are easier than right U-turns because of the throttle being close to my body. And these handlebars are shorter than most motorcycles, I would say, at least my KTM. And so my knee's kind of close to this handlebar. So when you're making really tight right turns, that your hand it's hard to move it and make precise movements on the throttle. But you get used to it. It's just a little harder than the left turns. And so I'll try to throw some music up here, maybe keep from getting boring. But you'll see some progression here as the days go by. But sometimes I don't progress very much here. I do feel comfortable with the scooter now, but when I first got it, it was a handful. And I do definitely feel more comfortable after doing these practices with the rear brake. You know, I didn't realize I wasn't squeezing that rear brake enough. I was kind of squeezing it as if I was on my Honda PCX scooter, which is 157 cc's. And I really needed to squeeze it more. I don't think you need to get much. My goal is not to get less than 2 parking spots. I'm not trying to be competitive here. I'm not competing with anybody. And if I don't feel comfortable with a turn, and you'll see it a few times where I'm like 3 parking spots, it's because my setup was wrong and I'm just going to back off. I'm not in competition with anybody or myself. I'm just here to, I don't want to fall. I've never fallen on any of my motorcycles yet. I'm sure it's coming. Haven't been in an accident yet. Almost. I had an emergency brake situation on the freeway. I've got that one on film, but it's hard to tell what was going on. But if you look at the speedometer, you can see I was really hammering on the brake. Anyway, so that's the end of the video. I hope you guys like it, and maybe I'll post one of these with the Honda PCX. I think I've sold it, but I think I still have the film clips of that, and I'll do the KTM 390 as well. If these are something people are looking at, I'll look at the views and see what people like. Anyway, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.